Welcome to The Explainer. Look, if you're a BS accountancy student staring down the barrel of the Philippine LECPA, you already know the struggle, right? You read a tax concept today, you understand it perfectly, and then a week later, it's just gone. Poof, vanished. But you need to hold on to this information not just for tomorrow's quiz, but for the board exams 2 or maybe 3 years from now. That requires a totally different kind of studying. So today, we're running a high-octane study session specifically engineered for long-term memory retention. We are tackling one of the absolute most heavily tested areas in taxation, estate tax special deductions.
So ask yourself, do you actually want to remember these rules 3 years from now when you're sitting in that exam room? If the answer is yes, you've got to stop passively reading and start building mental frameworks. Today, we're going to use cognitive hacks, insider formulas, and highly specific mnemonic devices to make memorization literally effortless. We're going to wire this into your brain so deeply that you won't even have to think about it on exam day.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is your mental roadmap to lower your cognitive load. First, we'll conquer the beast, vanishing deductions. Second, we'll walk through the exact requisites of the family home. Third, we'll grab the easy points with the Standard Deduction and Republic Act 4917. Fourth, we'll carve out the share of the surviving spouse. And finally, we'll lock the whole shebang in with our ultimate bullet review.
Section 1. Mastering Vanishing Deductions, which is also known as property previously taxed.
Structurally, you want to think of this deduction as the government's way of being fair. It's the ultimate trick to minimize double taxation when a property is transferred by death or donation and then the new owner dies shortly after. But to claim it, you have to hit a very specific set of criteria. I want you to meet the central character of your new mental schema, PAPING 5. Visualize this crisp list. P. The property must be situated in the Philippines. A. It must be ascertained, meaning identified as being received by the decedent. P. There must be payment of the prior donors or estate tax. I. It must be included in the present gross estate. N. No prior vanishing deduction was allowed on the same property. G. The present decedent must have acquired it by gratuitous title, like donation or inheritance. And the 5. The prior transfer must have happened within 5 years prior to their death. PAPING 5. Say it, visualize it, and lock it in.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the execution. Examiners love to test your execution of the math here. This is a linear, unskippable recipe. You must do this in order. Step 1. Determine the value to take. And the rule here is conservative. You always choose the lower of the fair market value at the first transfer versus the current transfer. Step 2. Deduct any mortgage paid by the present decedent. That gives you your initial basis. Step 3. This is where students trip up all the time. You have to allocate the ordinary deductions, specifically losses, indebtedness, taxes, and transfers for public use, proportionately. So you divide the initial basis by the gross estate and multiply it by those specific deductions. Subtract that, and you get your final basis. Finally, step 4, multiply that final basis by the decreasing rate.
And speaking of that decreasing rate, I need you to take a mental screenshot of this table right now. Seriously, burn this into your visual memory. It's elegantly simple. It starts at 100% for the first year, and it drops by exactly 20% for every additional year. Over 1 to 2 years, 80%. Over 4 to 5 years, just 20%. And remember our PAPING 5 rule? If it's more than 5 years, the rate drops to 0. The deduction has completely vanished.
Moving on to Section 2, the family home and its tax relief requisites. The family home is a massive tax relief, which means board examiners are totally obsessed with testing the specific, nitpicky requisites you need to meet to claim it. For this one, I want you to imagine a giant, pristine white flashcard with the word mansions written on it. M. The decedent must be married or the head of a family. A. It must be their actual residential home. N. Not a temporary dwelling. S. Substantiated by a certification from the Barangay Captain. I. The value must be included in the gross estate. On. They can only claim one family home. And S. It must be situated in the Philippines. Mansions. When a multiple-choice question tries to trick you with, a vacation home in Palawan or a second house in Manila, just run it straight through the mansions filter.
But here is where the trap is set. What exactly is the limit? Well, it's the actual fair market value of the home. However, and this is a massive however, if the home is classified as conjugal or community property, you can only deduct the decedent's half, so you divide the FMV by 2. But regardless of whether it's exclusive or conjugal, the absolute non-negotiable ceiling for this deduction is 10 million pesos. If the decedent's share is $12 million, you only deduct $10 million.
Section 3. Standard Deduction and RA 4917. We call these the free points on the board.
And this brilliantly illustrates what I mean by free points. These require very little computation, but you absolutely have to know the exact statutory limits. If you have these committed to memory, you're going to save precious minutes on the exam. So, for resident citizens, non-resident citizens, and resident aliens, the standard deduction is a very generous 5 million pesos. But the moment your decedent is a non-resident alien, that deduction plummets to just 500,000 pesos. The best part about the standard deduction, though, notice the bottom of the slide, no substantiation required. You don't need receipts, you don't need certifications. It is an automatic deduction based purely on residency and citizenship status.
Then we have Republic Act 4917, which deals with retirement benefits from a private employer. The rule here is simple but highly testable. It's an in, then out rule. To claim the deduction, those retirement benefits must absolutely be included in the gross estate first. If you don't put it in the gross estate, you cannot take it out as a deduction. In, then out. It's that simple.
Section 4. The surviving spouse share in the conjugal estate.
So, when a married person dies, their estate is mixed up with their living spouse's properties. Remember, estate tax is a tax on the transfer of the dead person's estate. It is definitely not a tax on the living spouse's hard-earned share. So what do? We carve out exactly 1/2, 50%. This portion is completely tax-exempt because, well, it already belongs to the surviving spouse. It's their property, not the decedent's.
So the crucial point is actually when you divide by 2. You don't just take the gross conjugal assets and chop them in half right away. No, you must take the gross conjugal or community estate, subtract the ordinary conjugal deductions, things like conjugal unpaid mortgages or claims against the estate, and then you divide that net figure by 2. That resulting number is your special deduction for the share of the surviving spouse.
Section 5. The Ultimate Bullet Review. Get ready for a high-speed memory drill.
Okay, we're going to wire this into your long-term memory using a high-speed spaced repetition drill. I'll flash a cue, you mentally shout the answer. Ready? Let's go. What is this 10 million pesos? Boom, it's the absolute maximum cap for the family home deduction. Remember, lower of FMV or 10 million, and you gotta have it if it's conjugal.
Next up, what does this window represent? Yep, it's the maximum time interval to claim a vanishing deduction under our PAPING 5 rule. If the prior death was 5 years and 1 day ago, that rate is 0. 5 million pesos. Who gets this? This is the unsubstantiated standard deduction, but only for resident citizens, non-resident citizens, and resident aliens. If they're a non-resident alien, it drops all the way to 500K.
Okay, take a deep breath. Look at this checklist. You've just built a bulletproof mental toolbox. You have Pay 5 for the requisites of vanishing deductions. You have mansions to instantly verify the family home. You know the in-then-out trick for RA 4917, and you know exactly how and when to carve out the 1/2 share of the surviving spouse. You are now armed with the exact cheat codes the top percentiles use to breeze through taxation.
So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. Fast forward 2 or 3 years from now. You're sitting in a quiet exam room, the LETPA test booklet is right in front of you, and an incredibly tricky estate tax problem appears. Which framework is going to fire off in your brain first to secure those points? Will it be Paying 5 or Mansions? Keep visualizing these schemas, review your mental folders, and you won't just pass, you're going to absolutely dominate. Thanks for joining this explainer, and keep building those cognitive hacks.